Okay, the Financial Times is leading with a warning from Beijing that it could retaliate if Washington expands its sanctions on Iran to target Chinese companies. The story comes after the United States announced tougher measures against Iran, putting pressure not only on Tehran but also on countries and businesses that continue trading with it. So China is particularly important here because it's a major buyer of Iranian oil. So wider secondary sanctions could directly affect these Chinese companies. So the paper says that Beijing has made clear that it opposes unilateral sanctions that are not backed by international law or the UN Security Council. And at the same time, Chinese officials are calling for the situation to be brought back towards dialogue and negotiation. Okay, now we go to the China Daily. They are actually not reporting on this story. Their headline instead is China tightens cross-border anti-graft fight. So they're leading with new efforts to strengthen the fight against corruption across borders. Chinese lawmakers are reviewing a draft law designed to improve cooperation with other countries in areas such as pursuing fugitives, recovering assets, and tackling corruption involving international business. So the newspaper says that China has more than 50,000 companies operating overseas, making stronger rules for cross-border business increasingly important. So this draft law is presented as part of a broader effort to create a cleaner and more transparent business environment while strengthening international cooperation. Right, from China to Pakistan now, and the front page headline, Stability prompts Moody's to lift Pakistan's credit rating. This is the e-paper from Dawn News, which was obviously published before the news that we're hearing at the moment of the peace negotiations and ceasefire talks. So at the time, the story that they went with was Moody's, the global rating agency, has upgraded Pakistan's credit rating. So Pakistan has regained a B3 status for the first time in 6 years. What does this mean? Well, it's linked to the improvement of stronger foreign exchange reserves, better debt affordability, and a return to international financial markets. But Dawn is careful not to suggest that the economic problems are over. The paper points out that Pakistan's revenue base remains narrow, and there are still constraints around attracting investment and stimulating high productivity and economic growth. Okay, so to India next. Let July 20 probe kick off. SC, Supreme Court on plea to widen remit. That's the headline from the Hindustan Times. A focus on the Supreme Court's decision concerning the inquiry into the July 20th protests in Delhi. The paper reports that the court has indicated that the 5-member high-powered inquiry committee, headed by Justice R. Subhash Reddy, should be allowed to begin its independent investigation into allegations of excessive use of force during these protests. So the petitioners are also seeking a wider investigation into the alleged role of former Union Home Minister Amit Shah and senior government and other police officials. So the dispute is not simply about the protests themselves, it's also about how broad the official inquiry should be and who should come under its scrutiny. To Bangladesh next, the Dhaka Tribune looks at the growing problems surrounding fertilizer supplies, with farmers facing shortages and higher prices. So the headline, what is driving shortages and price hikes? It's a question. The newspaper points to several factors behind the pressure, including distribution problems, disputes involving dealers, high seasonal demand and gas shortages. So together, these problems are tightening local supply at a time when farmers need fertilizer to cultivate their crops. Next up, right to the Australian next. Labour's insurance rebate change entraps 1.2 million pensioners. So the Australian is leading with a warning that changes to private health insurance to the rebate could affect around 1.2 million pensioners. The newspaper says that the changes are expected to affect older Australians who rely on private health insurance, with concerns that some pensioners could face higher costs or reduced access to private cover. The story highlights criticism from the private health insurance sector, which argues that the changes could put additional pressure on older and lower income Australians. So the government is, however, looking at ways to reform the system and manage the cost of health insurance rebates. The front page also carries another prominent story, robotics gold rush. You can see in the big banner image on the top, another story in the paper today, the growing commercial interest in robotics and the rapid development of new technology. Now, finally, we're going to go to the UK and the front page of The Guardian. Back review on electoral reform, MPs tell Burnham. So The Guardian reports that Prime Minister Andy Burnham is facing pressure from Labour MPs to move ahead with a major review of electoral reform. The paper says almost 100 Labour MPs are backing a call for a new national commission. The issue is politically significant because the government is considering how Britain's voting system could develop or change before the next election. So supporters of this reform argue that proportional representation would make Parliament more representative, while the government would still have to decide exactly how and when such changes could be introduced. Now, as you can see there, the front page has also got a major tribute to Dolly Parton with the headline, "I always wanted to be a star. It just seemed natural to me." The Guardian is marking the life and career of Dolly Parton after she passed away at the age of 80.